What is this group? Because I understand these governors got together, including Greg Abbott of Texas, and they compiled a 10-point plan to tackle this border problem. And you were part of it. You were with it. So how did this come about?
Well, when you look at the stresses that illegal immigration causes on the states, but even worse than that, the flow of the drugs that come into the states and kill our children in all areas, suburbs, inner city, and in the rural areas. When you look at all of the stressors that are being placed on the states, these governors are put in a no-win situation where they have to come up with solutions themselves to do the job that the federal government is choosing not to do. This is obviously a federal government issue, but if they're not going to do what they need to do to protect the states, then the states are going to have to step up and come up with plans on their own.
What is the biggest difference you've noticed from when Trump was president to when Biden has since he's become president?
It's night and day. What we've seen is a complete secession, if you will, of all of our operations to criminal cartels. Right now, they're dictating to us what we're able to do. They know that if they flood us in certain areas with large numbers of people that cross the border, it requires that we then send our resources to those areas, which then depletes our resources in other areas of the border. And when we do that, they're able to create artificial gaps where they then can cross higher value products, whether that's fentanyl, criminal aliens, or aliens from special interest countries. They're able to dictate to us exactly how we operate. And when we do that, they're able to get their higher value products across, which then, of course, makes it into middle America, spreads out throughout the United States. And of course, that is very, very dangerous to all of our citizens, all of our fellow citizens. And again, it really upsets the balance of how we're able to secure the border. And right now, it's the most unsecure I've ever seen it in my life.
So the cartels are not stupid. They know to create a problem at point A so that all the Border Patrol will go there, exposing point B because they know we don't have the manpower to cover the entire border and then provide backup for those same spots. But is that a difference from under President Trump? I mean, as far as I know, Joe Biden hasn't rolled back the number of agents, has he?
It is different. And the reason why it's different is because the way we deal with the people that cross the border illegally. So under President Trump, he recognized that the catch and release problem was the main magnet that is drawing people here to the United States. When I say catch and release, that's when somebody crosses the border illegally. We take them into custody, we process them, and just release them into the United States pending a future court date. That's exactly what these individuals want. They want to be released into the United States, and the cartels understand that. When President Trump ended the catch and release magnet, when he was able to negotiate the migrant protection protocols with the Mexican government, we were sending everybody that was crossing our borders, we were sending them right back to Mexico pending their asylum or deportation proceedings here in the United States. Once we did that, illegal immigration dropped to 45-year lows. We were then able to concentrate on the criminality. We were able to go after the profits of the criminal cartels, and we were able to drive down the number of drugs, the amounts of drugs that were on the streets, and of course that killing our children. Again, when you look at the number of overdoses right now in this country, it's at an all-time high, and it's strictly due to policy that's been implemented by this administration in getting rid of and gutting all of the immigration policies that we had under President Trump.
So if an illegal immigrant crosses the southern border now, they get stopped by a Border Patrol agent, if we're lucky, right? If we see him, if we have the manpower, we get the guy. We process him, meaning we basically take down the person's information and we give him a date to show up because they all say they want asylum, right? So you give them an asylum date, I guess, is how we do it. And then we say, okay, bye, and they're out there on the honor system.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And it gets even worse from there. Even if they do show up to their asylum or deportation proceedings, and if a judge orders them deported because they've been in the United States for a number of years, because these deportation proceedings or asylum proceedings, they take years. They don't happen within a couple months. They take years. And if they show up, they've now accumulated a number of goods here in the United States. And a judge, if they issue a deportation notice, then they'll immediately issue a stay of that deportation, and they'll release these people on their own recognizance to get their affairs in order. And then they're supposed to show up to ICE at a later date to then be deported. And that's when they disappear into what President Obama termed as the shadows of society. So, yeah, we release them. And then if they do show up to court, then a judge releases them pending a future deportation, and then they disappear and they never show up.
So even once the deportation order is handed down by the judge, we release them on the honor system saying, please come back for the day of your deportation?
We do. As crazy as that sounds, and the reason that they're doing this is, again, these people have accumulated. So when they're here pending their deportation proceedings, we've given them a de facto legal status. So we've rewarded them for crossing our borders illegally when we release them. We give them a de facto legal status. They're then able to get work permits. They're able to get driver's licenses. They're able to put their children in school. They're able to get all of the social benefits that any United States citizen would have access to. And when they accumulate those goods, then the judge issues an order of deportation, releases them so they can get all of those things in order to leave the country. And of course, that's when we know they never show up.
Okay, that's the game. Accumulate goods so that you can go into the judge, and when he rules against you on whether you can stay, you can say, oh, I've got all these things. I just got to get my affairs in order. And we say yes. And that's the end of that. They're here. Bob's your uncle.
Correct.
So now under President Trump, the same guy crosses over. You catch him. You process him. He's standing there saying, I really want asylum, or, please let me stay. I need a hearing of some sort. And what would happen?
We would then send them back to Mexico. We would give them the same court date. And when that court date arises, they then show up to the port of entry. They're paroled into the United States, but with that parole, they're under custody. They're in custody the entire time. And so if a judge orders them deported at that point, they never leave custody and they're sent back to their country of origin. That was the system that was always supposed to be in place. We were never supposed to be releasing these individuals. When the immigration laws were passed, it was never envisioned that these people would be released into the United States. But that's what's happened because the cartels are flooding us, and they understand that we only have so many resources to hold people in our jail facilities for so long. So President Trump, recognizing this, decided, well, we'll just have them wait in Mexico pending that asylum or deportation proceeding. And it was the most brilliant plan that we've ever seen. We always talk about we shouldn't recreate the wheel. We should always look at what's been done in the past. Well, nothing had been done in the past that had worked. I started my career under President Clinton, worked up through Bush, Obama, Trump, and now Biden, and nothing had worked in the past because we never did anything like this. President Trump literally created the will on this, and he gave the Biden administration a blueprint on how they could deal with illegal immigration. But the Biden administration, pandering to its base, understanding that they want to get their base out to vote in all elections, they started pandering to their base, and they completely and totally gutted the Trump policies, which put us in this current situation.
Well, there was a court ruling, Supreme Court recently, I think, saying that the Remain in Mexico policy had to stand, and that couldn't just be so easily undone by President Biden. Have you seen the effects of that? I mean, are we able now, in the wake of that, to send the folks back to Mexico?
No, the Biden administration hasn't implemented. The problem with that court order, and it's a good court order, it has no teeth. How do you enforce that? If the Biden administration just chooses to ignore it, the only thing you can do is file another lawsuit.
Well, wait, let me stop you there. How are we enforcing it before? When we sent the people back to Mexico, did we have buses lined up, or did you guys make sure now you're on the bus and you're going?
Yeah. So under the Trump administration, we would, the moment they were apprehended, we would process them and we would take them back to a port of entry, and we would expel them back into Mexico from that port of entry. But unless the Biden administration gives us that authority to do that, we can't do it. We cannot, even though the court has ruled that the MPP must be re-implemented, it has to be re-implemented through policy and certain procedures. And that's what the Biden administration is failing to do. They're not giving us those policies and procedures, so we can't re-implement how a judge told us to do it.